Greetings, Tanglers. This is Rachel Schwartz, CZT. Welcome back to Tiny Tangle, where we spin the spinner and we just pick two tangles that we want to put into a tiny composition. So this spinner actually comes from my spinner club that we do, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end. So let's see. Oh my gosh, that was the same spin that we had last time. So let's just spin that again. All right, so these are our choices. We've got Flux, we've got Heroisk, we've got Nipa, Bert's, and Keeta. So I think that we're going to do Keeta. Keeta is a nice little tangle by Sarah Harrison. So we're going to do Keeta as one of them, and let's, oh, that was not a very good spin. Let's see what we want to pair with Keeta. How am I getting moon pie again? Oh my gosh. All right, let's try again. Seriously? All right, well, I guess this just means, since we've now spun it 3 times, that we're just going to pick another one of these, because clearly that's what is wanting to happen. So we're going to do Kiss. We're going to do this tangle down here called Kiss, and that is a tangle by Olga Barco. All right, so I'm going to move my spinner away, grab myself a bijou tile, because this is tiny tangle. So we are meant to be able to do this in a relatively short period of time. And let's look at and learn these 2 tangles. I am going to grab my pen. Let's see. I think I'm going to start with a kiss. And actually, this time, I'm going to give myself a border string. So I'm just going to aura my bijou tile. And actually, before I get going, I will journal on the back that this is Tiny Tangle. I'm doing Kiss, which is by Olga Barco. And we're doing Keeta, which is a tangle by Sarah Harrison. 2 R's. And today, as I'm drawing this, it's actually the 18th of December of 2025. But of course, I have no idea when you are watching it. Okay, so I've got my string. I typically, in a tiny tangle tile, oh my gosh, say that a few times fast, the tiny tangle tile, I typically don't do any other kind of a string because I already have such a small space and I'm only putting 2 tangles in here. So I am going to start with Keeta, and I'm going to put my Keeta down here in the corner. Ish. It's very ish. So I'm going to start with 3 orbs, kind of in a triangular orientation. And then in between each, I'm going to do a smaller orb, just filling in that little bit of space. Now, using the little orb as a center point, I'm going to make a mirrored C-curve, although I could have done it as a C-curve. It just means it would be going in the opposite direction. And I'm going to make another C-curve, and then I'm going to connect them. Okay? And then I'm going to turn my tile, and I'm going to do the same thing, finding that center, that smaller orb, putting it in the center of this. It's almost like a pinwheel, isn't it? And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do my last one. Connect it. And then I'm going to aura just those pinwheel blades. miss my border, you know, I kind of drew over the string. I'm very fine with that. And now in between each of the blades, I'm going to follow the same mirrored C curve and put a tiny orb at the top. So I'm going to do this in between each one. And that is Keeta. But I did miss one step. I just realized, my apologies. There is a connection right down at the bottom. See how I did that? Kind of a crescent moon or a ladybug in those corners. And so, you know, in this case, I've got these little antennae overlapping, and that's okay. If that bothered me, I might decide to ink those in. That would also add some drama. So remember, in Zentangle, it's no mistakes, just an opportunity to try something that we weren't planning on doing. And that looks perfectly fine. I am quite happy with that. So that is our Tangle Keeta. And then let's look at Kiss. So I'm going to do a kiss, I think over here. So Kiss, again, starts with orbs. So we're going to start with an orb and put one underneath it. So basically it looks like an 8. And then I'm going to come up on the left side of this orb with a flux, a curvy flux, just one flux. Now I'm going to start coming down to the left of that flux. I'm putting basically what's partial fluxes. However many I can fit. I don't want to go all the way down though, because on, again, the left side of this bottom orb, I'm going to bring down another flux. But that one's going to stay where it is. So now I'm going to come to the right side. I'm going to put another flux, but I want it to come behind. This is going to be a full curvy flux, but it's going to go behind. So I'm drawing in hollow ball fashion. It went behind that first flux that we put in. And I'm going to do the same thing down here on the bottom. And then we're going to ink in these interstices above and below those center orbs. I am going to come down on the right side the same way that I did the left with those partial flux. And at this point I can decide, you know, do I want to add more? Once you've got in that bottom, it becomes a little easier to decide how many of those flux you want, or the partial flux in this case. So that's it, that's Kiss. So now I just need to finish my composition. I need to figure out what else I want to do. So I'm just going to do some more. I'm going to do a second kiss. And of course, it can go in the other direction. Right? And I can kind of choose the steps. The order of how I do things could be a little different each time. I could even let these bottom ones, what if I just let them kiss each other instead of overlap? Lots of ways that you could add a little personality. That one might even go behind. So there's another kiss. And of course I'll give another Keeta, but I think this time I'll let part of it go off. I'm not going to try and see a full Keeta. So I had my 3 orbs and then my 3 smaller orbs in the in-betweens. And maybe I'll let this one spin in the other direction. So it's going to go off the paper. I just want to make sure that whatever direction I choose for each individual Keeta, that I stick with that. I don't want to change directions in the middle. And so what I should have done the first time is before auraing the blades, I should have put in the aura around the center. That's the way that it was designed by Sarah. But I would imagine that, you know, most CZTs want you to make it your own and do, you know, whatever you like. And sometimes that means just accepting. Maybe I'll ink these in since I'm not going to ink in what's at the bottom. You know, it's embracing the whole no mistakes, so let's just see what happens and adjust. You can adjust as you go. And obviously, I mean, look, I could certainly do some kind of embellishment inside the blades, right? We could easily do that. So I am now going to ink my border, and I'm actually going to change it a little bit. I'm going to make it a little smaller. But then obviously it's going to go behind this cornered Keeta. That's the blade, so I can't go over that. But it might come out a little bit behind. That wasn't really that important for me to put in. And, you know, you certainly could do more. You could add other things. I am feeling that it would be kind of nice to have something else going on here, at least for this tiny tangled tile. So I'm just going to add in some interior auras. I'm sorry that my tile keeps dropping down. Oh, I like that. And maybe because I've got the drama going in over here, I'm going to ink in these middles. So what we're doing now is really what we talk about in my spinner club, where we talk about composition, how to add, how to put the tangles together. So definitely thinking, oh, excuse me, you did not need to see that. I think what's happened is my battery is fading on me. Oh, there we go. Much better. My apologies. So, you know, as I look at this, it's a matter of saying, well, what can I do? How do I put them together? What do I like? So that's certainly what we do in Spinner Club. All right, so now let's get some shade in here. So maybe on this one, I'll put a little bit in those center orbs, just a little. Oh my goodness, I went off screen again. My apologies. I just put a little bit in there. I could see putting some lead inside these blades. Let's see what that does. Just a little, because I have to leave the white in the middle. You have to have white to really appreciate the dark. Oh, I do like that. Now I'm just going tiny, tiny, tiny. It's like a dot. You don't even think it's going to read. And then all I'm doing is kind of like just push it just a little bit because I don't want to fill it in. So I did like that. Let's try something really different. Let's try connecting the corners. Oh, watch this. Let's connect the corners on this one. course, you don't really get to see enough of them. So while this is an interesting idea, I don't know that we're really getting to see enough of it. And then we can also, what if we just take our lead pencil and we basically color in and then blend it. And look how we just get a different tone. We get gray instead of the drama over here of the black. So just an interesting, different something. And then, you know, we always know that a good place to start with shading is where one part of our tangle or one tangle overlaps another part, because underneath is where we would find a shadow. So we're just gonna put a little bit. I really need for my my tortillon to be pointier. Put a little bit in those bottoms. And I do think that I want just a tiny bit, real close to an end in those orbs. Look at how it just comes to life. I'm going to do the same idea on my other kiss. You know what? Let's do something a little bit different. Let me show you a different way of shading. So I hope your eyes don't burn because you see my eraser come out. And we really don't use erasers in Zentangle, but I thought of this a little late. So I'm going to put some lead down in the corner where all of this comes out of, right there at the bottom where it joins the orb. I still want to put it up here with the overlap. And in fact, if I want, I could put a little bit at the tops and bring it down just a tiny bit. And see how that gives, on this one I've put my shade in between each layer, and here I've kind of made them so that they fold back. It's just a different, it's subtle only because this is so small, so you don't really get to see a whole lot of what we've done, but hopefully it gives you the idea and you can try it bigger on your own. So there you go. And we can also, sometimes it's fun to put your pencil on the outside of a border. Have you tried that? That can be fun, and especially if you don't ink the border first. You could just take your string line and go over that a little bit, and it's almost as if you have an invisible string. And look how that just made the inside super white and bright. Now, if you don't like all that empty space, I think we could easily add in the Tangle Therefore, which is just these 3 dots in a triangle formation. And we're just going to put a bunch of them in different areas and see how that, just this little tiny detail fills in that space. It's very whimsical. I don't want you to think that you always need to fill every space, but we'll let that one go behind. Did want to just show you how easily that could happen. Oh, I think this is upside down. But how would I know? I really wouldn't. So there you go, Tanglers. We've got Keeta and Kiss, and I'm going to put my chop in there. And just quickly remind you that if you are interested in learning more about composition and you like using this spinner of mine, then please go to my website, zenfullyyours.com, click on the tab that says Club Membership, and you will get to see all the different possibilities that I have for how you could join my wonderful little community. We meet every second Tuesday of the month. There are recordings, and you can even, there's an option just to pop into one of them and give it a try. So until our next Tiny Tangle, I wish you all well and hope to see you again. Take care and happy tangling. Bye-bye.